A very good afternoon to you all. This is the Ambassador. With me, your Ambassador, Jennifer Makau. In the United States, it is that time of the year again. The time for presidential debates. Every 4 years, United States presidential candidates battle it out on stage. It allows candidates to be on the spotlights, and it's also a way to woo voters and a way to make the opponent look bad. This is the time Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, now the United States presidential debates, are on the standard practice. It's been happening for decades, but this one is quite unusual. Why? There is a lot of new about this debate. It is one of the current president debating a former president. That never happened before in the United States. Listen in.
I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that
because
question?
the question is, the question is,
Justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen.
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have...
My retribution is going to be a success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department...
Reason number two why this is an unusual debate is CNN is hosting the debate. Usually the job of the Commission on the Presidential Debates, it is a non-participant body. It conducts the presidential debates, but for the first time in 3 decades, the U.S. media network is doing it for the first time. Listen in.
President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing.
Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them. Both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it.
Reason number 3, it is one of the earliest debates in history. The elections are in November. We are in the month of June. Debates usually happen closer to the polls. Plus, none of the two candidates have been officially nominated, so the debate now makes no sense. Reason number 4, there is no live audience. It is a major departure from the past debates. They deprives of the candidates of the momentum of having supporters. And reason number 5, microphones will be cut when speaking when time is over. So there will be no speaking over to each other. But Trump will get the last word. And the last, it is in the age of the candidates. Biden is 81 years of age. If he wins, he will be the oldest president in the 82 years of age. By the time he completes his term, he will be 86. Trump, on the other hand, is 78. The two are the oldest candidates to run for the U.S. presidency, which makes age quite a significant factor in this time debate. Listen in.
But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way.
So for 90 minutes, voters are focusing on just one thing: how the candidates will conduct themselves. Will Biden take a tumble? Will he get overlost for words? Again, will Trump lose the track of what he's saying? That's what something are keeping an eye out for. Some 73 million people viewed for the first time the Biden-Trump debate in 2020, so all the eyes are on this one too. But it looks like Americans are not too happy with the choices they have made. The new poll suggests a half of the Americans think the debate is important for Biden. 4 out of 10 think it is crucial for Trump, so all the eyes are on the two candidates. Which brings us to the debate itself. Will it be a friendly and a fair one? It is highly unlikely. This is the first Biden, and it will be the same room with Trump in 2020, and the last debate wasn't really smooth. Listen in.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control?
So what will the two candidates be focusing on? For Trump, there are two major keys, economy and immigration. Voters believe that Trump would do better in one of them, and for Biden, it is abortion and health care. Voters feel he will do better on them, but Biden has another card hidden for Trump. It is the former president's conviction. He suggests the guilty verdict could calm Trump's support, especially among the swing voters. Biden would want to capitalize on that. And there are two candidates. They are the two candidates prepared enough for this debate. Let us listen in.
But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official at DOJ into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the...
Biden spent the week off the radar. He was at the Camp David retreat near Washington. Reports suggest that he was tuning his attack lines in mock debate. Trump's preparation had been more relaxed. He had more dresses rehearsals. He also addressed rallies. Trump aides want him to focus on economy. Meanwhile, the Biden camp seeks to paint Trump unfit for the office. So the stage has been set. But no matter what the outcome is, the debate is too soon to take a call. Why? Like I said before, this is one of the earliest presidential debates. It is happening months before the polls. So by the time November comes, it will be a blip in the memory of the Americans. Even if the damage is done, both candidates will have enough time to do damage control. They try another debate in September. Another debate is coming up in September. That could have a more direct impact. So while the debate may be the first on this calendar, but it is unlikely to do more damage. That is set for the tone in the coming months to come in the September debate.
African American citizens because he refuses to prosecute people. They don't refuse to prosecute me. I got more prosecutions than any human being. I've got more than the great Alphonse Capone. You ever hear of Scarface?
We'll keep you more updated on the debates. The parliamentary power in Kenya is on a swinging balance after the demonstrators on Tuesday stormed into the parliament building, which is heavily protected, after the members of the National Assembly passed the financial bill against their bosses who sent them to represent, the legislate and provide the oversight on the behalf of the National Assembly. Can there be a possibility for the National Assembly to be dissolved after this act by the members of the public storming into the National Assembly due to the lack of confidence? David Karani takes us through with the report.
On Tuesday afternoon, the parliamentary building was a host for the entire members of the public who were protesting after the majority of the National Assembly members voted yes to the finance bill, even after the bill received mass rejection during its public participation exercise.
My worry was we participated in other public participation, and most of the issues we raised and the proposals we made were never put into use. They were ignored. So I declined to make any proposal.
According to Chapter 8 of the Kenyan Constitution, which is the legislature, Point 1 states that the electorate under Article 97 and 98 have the right to recall the members of the parliament before the end of a term, while Point 2 states that parliament shall enact legislation to provide grounds on which a member may be recalled and the procedures to be followed. But all this seems not to be achieved due to lack of confidence to the entire National Assembly representatives by the members of the public who decided to storm into the parliament to retrieve back their power. But at the same time, even if the parliament is dissolved at the moment, the country still lacks an independent body to oversee and conduct elections, since the time for the team which conducted the last time elections elapsed and the majority of the commissioners retired, and the current National Assembly representatives who are supposed to vet the Independent Electoral Commission officials were massively phased out by the public, and the parliamentary instruments of power removed out of the chambers and exposed to the public, which the Constitution is still silent on such scenario on what should be done just in case the parliamentary instruments of power become exposed to the public. The lack of the electoral body, presence of a parliament which is at the danger of becoming malfunction after it lacked confidence from the public, and lack of a clear solution on what should be done in case a parliamentary instrument of power becomes exposed to the public, puts the Kenyan Constitution into a crisis state after even members of the public failed to follow the correct procedures of rejecting a parliamentary decision.
And that international news brings us to our first break. We have more lined up for you shortly after the break. Topics you can't afford to miss. Stay tuned with us.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
죄를
sins.
지셨고
He carried our sins,
십자가에 못 박혀 주고 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins,
무덤에 들어가셨다가
and he was put into the tomb
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
About how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being crucified.
우리 죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Welcome back. You are still watching The Ambassador, GBS Global, and we are glad to have you join us today. Let us continue looking at the protests in Kenya. Now, Kenya tensions have been running high in the East African nation. Chaos broke out on Tuesday. At least 23 people were killed, and during the nationwide protest, the protesters breached the parliament and set pass on fire. The public anger finally compelled President William Ruto to back down and check on the finance bill. He rejected his own government controversial financial bill and promised to refrain from imposing new taxes. This means the protesters were successful, but demonstrations have died not down yet. In fact, there was a new call issued yesterday under the Occupy State House, that is Kenya's presidential palace. Listen in.
Directing for immediate further austerity measures to reduce expenditure, starting with the office of the president, the entire presidency, and extending to the entire executive arm of government. Operational expenditure in the presidency be reduced to remove allocations for the confidential fort, reduce travel, hospitality, purchase of motor vehicles, renovations, and other expenditures. This will cover the entire presidency and also the executive arm of government. I also propose that equally, Parliament, the judiciary, and county governments, working with the National Treasury, also undertake budget cuts and austerity to ensure that we do live within our means, respecting the very loud message that is coming from the people of Kenya. Let me also confirm that as we deal with austerity, the loud message on dealing firmly, decisively, and expeditiously with corruption is a matter that we have discussed and we have agreed that it will take the front burner as we go into the future. We will continue to do this and carry out.
That was a message after the protest. Protesters threatened to storm the State House as well as because they wanted Ruto to resign. And to prevent this, the Kenyan government called on the armed forces. The military was deployed in Nairobi's central business district. Riot police could be seen in every corner. They arrested a number of protesters yesterday in Nairobi and other parts of Kenya. But amidst the heavy police deployment, some troops were missing. Which were these troops? About 400 Kenyan officers were mobilized thousands of kilometers away in the Caribbean nation of Haiti, because while their home country is in turmoil, they have a different task. The Kenyan troops are leading in a multinational force. They are aiming to bring peace in Haiti gang violence, problems under the control. Tuesday, the Kenyan protest descended into chaos, but 400 police officers were descending into something else. They made their way off to the Kenyan Airways plane and stood on the tarmac of the international airport in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. Each Kenyan police was decked in camouflage Kevlar, wearing a beige tactical ballistic helmet and carrying an assault rifle, either an M4 or an AK. It was a show of a message that the peacekeepers have arrived. The Kenyan troops going to be leading the international task force, and their mission is one: providing security to the Haiti and defeating the gangs that have overrun the Caribbean country. Violent gangs have taken over the various parts of Haiti. They control about 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince. The gangs even forced Prime Minister Ariel Henry to resign. Haiti current Prime Minister Gary Conil and the personnel welcome the Kenyan troops. Listen in.
From as far away as East Africa, the people of Kenya have heard the cries and sufferings of the Haitian people, and they are here in a spirit of solidarity with our police. The first contingent has been mobilized and is solidly in place to accompany and support Haitian strategies to regain our security, house by house, neighborhood by neighborhood, town by town.
The Kenya-led mission has drawn mixed reactions from the locals.
If the Kenyan forces arrive in Haiti, with the support of the Americans, I believe that they will bring about a change. The people will support them.
It is not the foreigners that will solve our problems. It is up to us to come up with solutions. But still, we accept the help because we cannot go anywhere because so many areas of the country are lawless.
In a war-torn Sudan, a devastating humanitarian crisis is unfolding as the rival military factions continue to clash. International experts warn that 7,500 people are facing famine in the coming months, while the country's healthcare system lies in ruins after 14 months of fighting. The conflict has triggered a severe food security crisis, with 8.5 million people facing extreme food shortages and 25.6 million Sudanese, over a half of the population, facing crisis levels of food insecurity. Let's get the full report.
The conflict in Sudan has had a devastating impact on the country's healthcare system. Over 18 months of fighting has left many hospitals and medical facilities closed, damaged, or burnt. Doctors warned that the few remaining operational facilities may soon have to shut down due to limited resources and overcrowding. The World Health Organization reports that 15 million Sudanese don't have access to healthcare, with 70 to 80% of health facilities not functioning. Displaced patients like Manal Fadil have been unable to get proper follow-up care for critical medical conditions. The relentless clashes between rival military functions have also triggered a severe food security crisis in Sudan. A new report warns that 755,000 people are facing famine in the coming months. In total, 8.5 million people are facing extreme food shortages, and 25.6 million Sudanese, over half the population, face crisis levels of food insecurity. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification (IPC) warns of a real risk of famine in 14 areas if the fighting escalates further. This crisis has reached catastrophic levels not seen since the Darfur conflict in the early 2000s. The devastating conflict in Sudan has devastated both the country's healthcare system and food security, leaving millions of lives at risk. The United Nations is urgently calling for an immediate nation. The devastating conflict in Sudan has devastated both the country's healthcare system and food security, leaving millions of lives at risk.
Mark a stark and rapid deterioration of the food security situation compared to the previous IPC update released, as I mentioned, in December 2023.
Nations is urgently calling for an immediate ceasefire, increased humanitarian funding, and unhindered aid access to prevent a full-blown famine and address this rapidly deteriorating crisis. The international community must act quickly to help the people of Sudan.
Iranians are voting today, that is on Friday, in a snap presidential election following the unexpected death of the former president, Ibrahim Raisi, in an helicopter crash. The election features a tightly controlled field of 4 candidates, while these hardliners and the most reformist, and the election comes at a challenging time for Iran, with a battered economy, high inflation, Western sanctions, and rising tensions with the US and Israel. If no candidate wins at least 50% of the vote, a runoff between the top 2 finishers will be held on July 5th. The election is being closely watched for its implications beyond Iran's borders, and the country's next president will have to contend with the winner of the United States presidential elections in November. The outcome could also provide clues on the succession plan for the aging Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused Iran of waging a 7-front war to conquer the Middle East through the proxies Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis in Yemen and the militias in Iraq and Syria. Netanyahu's comment come within the heightened tensions along the Israeli-Lebanon border. Several countries have advised citizens to leave Lebanon, while the U.S. Embassy issued a security alert. Analysts stated that Iran's axis of resistance may join the fight if the conflict expanded, with the prospect of a wider regional war raising an alarm while France calls for the restraint. Experts warn that if Gaza conflict shifts to Lebanon, it could further destabilize in the Middle East. Here is the full report.
The militias in Iraq and Syria, Judea, Samaria, West Bank, Iran itself, they'd like to topple Jordan, and their goal is to have a combined ground offensive from various fronts, coupled with a combined missile. We have to, we've been given the opportunity to scuttle it, and we will. The first requirement is to cut that hand, Hamas. People who do this thing to us are not going to be there. And we'll have a long battle. I don't think it's that long, but we'll get rid of them. We also have to deter the other elements of the Iran terror axis. But we have to deal with the axis. The axis doesn't threaten only us. It threatens you. It's on the march to conquer the Middle East. Conquer the Middle East. Conquer. That means actually conquer. Conquer Saudi Arabia, conquer the Arabian Peninsula. It's just a question of time. And what's standing in their way is the small Satan, that's us, on the road to the middle-sized Satans, that's the Europeans. They're always offended when I tell them that. You're the great Satan, not them.
The year 2023 was identified as the most devastating in recent times for the children caught in armed conflicts worldwide, according to a critical report released by the United Nations, detailing a surge in the grave violations such as killings, maimings, and abductions. The report underscored a grim reality faced by thousands of children, prompting urgent calls for international action and accountability. Listen for more.
According to the UN report, an outstanding that 2,990 grave violations were verified against 22,557 children in 2023 alone. These violations included a range of atrocities, including killings, maimings, recruitment for combat roles, denial of humanitarian access, and abductions. Virginia Gamba, the UN's Special Representative for Children, missed no words in her address to the Security Council condemning these shocking violations of children's rights.
In the 25 countries and one regional situation covered by my mandate, the United Nations verified an appalling 32,990 grave violations against 22,557 children in 2023. This is the highest number of annual violations in almost 10 years. Solely when compared to 2022, which already marked a severe deterioration for children, grave violations have increased by 21%.
The report disclosed that 5,301 children lost their lives due to armed conflict last year, with an additional 6,348 sustaining injuries, which is a 5% increase compared to previous years. The recruitment and use of children in hostilities saw a drastic surge, with 8,655 cases verified, a situation that particularly affected girls, who constituted about 15% of those recruited. Child abductions, another extremely disturbing facet of these conflicts, continued unabated at alarming levels. The report documented 4,356 verified cases of children abductions in 2023, underscoring the persistent. The report's findings paint a black picture of the impact of armed conflicts on the world's most vulnerable populations, children caught in the crossfire. As the international community contends with these disturbing revelations, the UN continues to advocate for the protection and rights of children affected by armed conflict, urging all parties involved to prioritize the safety and well-being of children above all else.
Quite an alarming report, and that international news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global. It's been a pleasure having you on board, joining us to the end. Here at the Ambassador, we continue to bring you the latest updates and the global developments as you keep it locked with us. I've been your Ambassador, Jennifer Macau, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here at the Ambassador on Monday, same time, same place, at 1 p.m. And may you all have the most beautiful afternoon and a wonderful weekend ahead. Stay safe.
Everywhere, GBS.